Well, I'm here to tell you that you're probably going to find out as you go out there that you're not going to amount to jack squat.
Given to the recent history about what's going on right now with books being banned by the conservatives out there, I thought it would be really prudent to read this article from John Pavlovitz. And trust me, it's pretty scathing. And every Christian, or at least people who claim to be Christians, need to read and need to listen to this very carefully. If conservatives want to ban dangerous books, they better start with the Bible. Recently, a Tennessee school board voted to ban Menace, a Pulitzer Prize-winning graphic novel about the Holocaust, from the 8th grade curriculum. This has become a familiar tactic of Republican parents, politicians, pastors, working through local school boards to edit out of vital creative works and voices from school curriculums in the name of protecting children. In reality, it's continuing the time-honored right-wing tradition of raising them to be historically unaware and racially intolerant by redacting the story that they are told about the world. The instant outrage over critical race theory is the most current and brazen assault on teaching young people historical information under the guise of a dangerous leftist agenda, which turns out to be accurately recording the horrors of our recent collective past towards people of color in an effort to make sure that that inhumanity doesn't repeat itself here. Conservatives have now expanded their assaults to works like Menace and then minimize the horrors of the Holocaust, with one Indiana senator claiming that the critical works of Nazism, fascism, and Marxism are dangerous, and that teachings on those matters need to be, quoting him, impartial. Four of the lawmakers have proposed legislation banning sympathetic references to the LGBTQ people in schools. I'm a Christian, and I've been a pastor in the local church for most of the past 3 decades. I've read, studied, and taught the Bible, and I found a great meaning and beauty in it all my life. I also know that if Republicans want to ban books that perpetrate violence and inhumanity, or tell stories of generational racism and discrimination, and if they're being very honest about it, they better start with the Bible. Christians who are responsible students of history know that the Bible is the single most weaponized piece of writing on the planet, responsible for unjust wars, systematic genocide, generational anti-Semitism, violent extremism, the subjugation of women, and the pervasive racism. This really isn't up for debate. From the Crusades to the Inquisition, to the troubles of the Holocaust, to slavery, to racism and homophobia in America, the shadow of the Bible looms large. Many responsible people of faith are able to engage with texts of their sacred tradition and even love parts of them while fully being cognizant of the atrocities committed in its name or words. And this is where the book banners need to be careful. Now, of course, I don't believe the Bible should be banned, nor do I believe any piece of historical writing should be. We need to correctly see where we've been so that we gain wisdom to help us avoid the worst corporate sins of the past. But if conservatives are going to declare a holy war on writings that are somehow dangerous to young minds or potentially harmful to society, they're going to need to reckon with the true and full legacy of the Christian scriptures. The inhumanity, the violence, the sexual immorality that accompany the teachings of mercy, compassion, and justice. They're going to need to be honest about its partridges with hundreds of wives and concubines, with unpunished sexual assault, with the slaughtering of an entire cities in the name of God, with thousands of words used since this distribution to perpetrate bigotry and intolerance. They're also going to have to admit that for as long as the Bible has yielded empathetic and generous people burdened by Jesus' teachings to work for equality and diverse justice and to build more expansive communities, it has made monsters who feel mandated by it to be horrible to other human beings based on the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, their nation of origin, or their gender. For as often as the Bible has inspired people to love the least, it has generated wall builders and travel banners. In fact, if they were truly capable of introspection and self-awareness, conservatives might ask where their own current crusade against critical race theory or graphic novels about the Holocaust or the teachings of LGBTQ human beings are simply the latest example of the Christian sculpture's negative influence on people prone to fear and exclusion. Maybe the Bible-believing book banners should think about banning the Bible. Now, thanks to John Pavlovitz for this, but again, I believe as he does, we shouldn't ban the Bible. But let's not pretend that the Bible was this great book that it appealed to everyone, because some of them have twisted the Word of God, the literal Word of God in the Bible, into a hammer to beat others down. We're seeing it everywhere right now. People like Greg Locke and Joshua Fierstein, who tell everyone that they're pastors, that they believe in the Word of God, while at the same time perpetuating racism, bigotry, and hate whilst reading the Holy Scriptures. Politicians are not immune to it too. People in the GOP have used the Bible scriptures to justify everything, whether it comes to hating Muslims or other people of color in this country. And banning books is not going to work. You can't erase history unless you have a time machine. You can't change history, and you can't change what's happened in this world. You don't want to know about the Holocaust? Fine. Be ignorant. Be stupid. But we know it happened. This world is full of scars of terrible things that have happened that people in the GOP don't want people to know about, and are doing everything in their power to whitewash. Reading this article, it reminded me of a 1960 movie starring Spencer Tracy called Inherent the Wind. It's based on the 1925 real-life case in which Spencer Tracy plays the defense attorney for a Tennessee teacher. Ironically, since this whole thing, the article was talking about the banning of the book in Tennessee, who's about to be put on trial for teaching evolution in high school. Now, Harry Drummond, Spencer Tracy's character, gives perhaps the most passionate speech in this movie. Now, I'm going to try to paraphrase this to what's happening now. Now, first off, I'm going to read what he said in the movie, then I'm going to try to paraphrase it in a few moments. He said, "Can't you understand that if you take a law like evolution and you make it a crime to teach it in the public schools, tomorrow you can make it a crime to teach it in the private schools? And tomorrow you may make it a crime to read about it? And soon you may ban books and newspapers. And you might make it and then you can turn Catholic against Protestant, Protestant against Protestant, and try to force your own religion upon the mind of man. If you can do one, you can do the other, because fanaticism and ignorance is forever busy. and needs feeding. And soon, Your Honor, with banners flying and drums beating, we'll be marching backward through the glorious ages of that 16th century when bigots burned the man who dared to bring intelligence and enlightenment to the human mind. The judge says, I hope this counsel does not mean to imply that this court is bigoted. Drummond replies, well, Your Honor has the right to hope. The judge says, I have the right to do more than that. Harry Drummond responds, you have the power to do more than that. Then the judge holds Drummond in contempt of court. We're seeing what Harry Drummond said with the banning of books that talk about the Holocaust, when everyone wants to get angry about quote-unquote critical race theory, showing the truth about what happened in this country, that slavery did happen in this country. Now, I'm going to try to paraphrase, forgive me if I stumble on my words, but I'm going to try and paraphrase what Harry Drummond said and update to today. Can't you understand that if you take things like the Holocaust or slavery that happened in this country or in this world and make it a crime to teach it in the public schools, tomorrow you can make it a crime to teach it in the private schools, and tomorrow you may make it a crime to even read about it in public, in a public library, or read about it online, on the internet. And soon you may ban books and newspapers or shut down websites. And you may turn Catholic against Protestant, Protestant against Protestant. You've already turned everyone against Muslims in this country. And you might force your own religion on the mind of man. If you can do one, you're trying to do one, and you're trying to do the other. Because fanaticism and ignorance is forever busy and needs feeding. And soon, Your Honor, with banners flying and drums beating, we'll be marching backward through the glorious ages of the 16th century when bigots burnt the man who dared to bring intelligence and enlightenment to the human mind. The fact of the matter is this. Every time the GOP or some parent who has loyalty to the GOP or to Donald Trump or whatever wants to ban a book that talks about the Holocaust or slavery in this country, or the Native American near genocide in this nation, you're making the younger generation ignorant to the history that somehow they won't be able to learn from that dark past. As Harry Drummond said, you have the power to do more than that. You have the power to not create a nation of ignorant fools. That's the fact. That is a fact. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.